Welcome to The Journey. My name is Kevin Polky, and I am the host of The Journey. And for many of you who have been listening, um, we have the opportunity to have guests on that will share their stories of setbacks or obstacles that they may have had in their life. Not only do they share the details around what those setbacks were, but more importantly, they share about what they may have learned when that setback happened and what they would have what the what they learned when that setback happened, and if that setback wouldn't have happened, what they wouldn't have had an opportunity to learn that. And so last week we talked about some of my research for some new workshops I was doing, um, looking further into Joseph Campbell's work with the hero's journey, as well as Viktor Frankl's work with logotherapy. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to connect with today was about this idea of setbacks or obstacles. Um, I think as a young parent, I fell, Diane and I both fell into the temptation of wanting um, both Caleb and Sierra to not have obstacles in their life. Wanted to remove as many as those obstacles as possible. At the same time, fundamentally knowing that those struggles, maybe at the moment, they would have considered suffering and frustration as that struggle was happening, was critical in the development. We know this to be true when it comes to exercising, sports performance, performance within the arts, that we have to be stretched out of our comfort zone. We have to increase resistance or increase intensity for that growth and development to happen. Similar academically, we need to be able to be stretched with concepts that we didn't previously know when we go to the next lesson or the next grade level. Ironically, though, at the same time, when we see our child or see our partner or see a close friend struggling, what do? We step in and ask, what can we do to help? And we may even have what might appear to be the answer, and we suggest that answer, or we just step in and fix it for them. I know that there was something that in both Caleb and Sierra, as they were growing up, and not much different than my nieces and nephew, that as they were growing up, there was an opportunity to step in and intervene and help them so that they weren't suffering from the struggle. The truth being told is that it would sometimes be easier if I would step in and we could get to wherever we were going quicker if I would have stepped in. Or maybe I could have, at my age, be able to do it maybe even more proficiently than them. That if I would have stepped in, we could get to where we needed to go on time and quicker. The task probably would have been done more efficiently and probably just done better. And they would have, meaning Caleb or Sierra or whoever, wouldn't have been struggling against learning this new task. I'm grateful, though, that Diana and I both made a decision to not intervene, but rather give some guidance and teaching techniques and tips when they were struggling with the task of tying their shoes. As I said, it would be much easier if I would have gone in and just did it myself. We would have got to where we were going more efficiently. They wouldn't have been struggling with it. It would have got done correctly. But maybe if I would have done it first when they first started learning to tie their shoes, and later as they were continuing to struggle with that task, that maybe I'd still be tying their shoes today. And I guess that would then, that enabling would not necessarily have served the purpose that I wanted it to. Now, I know that's a silly example of tying someone's shoe. Everyone can see how they need, the child needs to wrestle with that particular type of obstacle. But isn't it also with others? Navigating through relationships when they first start dating someone, or struggling with a teacher that they may feel isn't fair, or a boss or supervisor that they don't feel is fair, or they don't feel that the concepts that they are uh, implementing or imposing are fair. Yes, do I believe that we should at times, as their guide, we should make sure that there isn't some type of abuse or trauma happening. But what if we discern that there is no abuse or trauma happening, either big T or little t trauma, but it is just struggling against the circumstance? William Shakespeare was quoted at one time saying that uh, that the individuals in our life are just characters within the play, which is called our life. When I think of that, I think of Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey, that as I'm on my journey, they are going to be different individuals in my life that are going to play different roles, and that I recognize that those roles that they're playing are for me to wrestle with, not for me to try to eliminate them or put all the weight on the person or the personality. That they are just characters in the story, and that I need to wrestle with, come to some understanding about what part are they playing and what part do I play in that relationship with them. There are going to be times when people are going to come into our lives for long periods of time, and then others for short time periods. There are going to be individuals that are going to leave our circle, and there doesn't necessarily need to be a bad guy because they're making a transition to do something else. There's many different aspects in the wisdom traditions that we can glean from to try to guide us on our journey. I'm most familiar with Christianity and the Christian teachings and stories, um, and so I usually go there first and try to reflect on what that means. And I've come to realize and learn that the stories for me are better to be seen as stories, not necessarily from a literal standpoint, but more beneficial for me, um, from an aspect of what is it trying to teach me today and at this time period in my life. So I'm going to reflect on something that helped me when I was first started uh, in high school, first getting ready to work, and reflecting on coaches I had at that time and teachers I had at that time. In Colossians 3:22, the author states, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you to win their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men." So in these just couple lines, there was a guidance for me that it wasn't about trying to get favor with the coach or the teacher or the supervisor or the boss. It was about doing a good job to the best of my ability, regardless if that person of authority was watching me or not watching me. That guidance spoke to me of how do I handle obstacles and opportunities regarding integrity? Who am I when no one's watching? That these little battles that we encounter throughout the day have really, they are the bigger battles of who are we going to be. I believe in this particular passage that I just read, it wasn't about necessarily the word slave or masters. I think we can interject whoever that may be. That for me, the slave or the worker or the player or the person that has some authority figure in my life, and that I work to do the job to the best of my ability, not for that particular person's favor, but because it's the right thing to do. I think we have that same opportunity, that when we have opportunities that come up, even though we may feel like that they're more of an ordeal or some type of setback, that we can set aside, how am I going to do this with integrity? How am I going to do this and be okay with what I see when I look in the mirror? How am I going to do this while looking in the mirror, knowing what I did or did not do, and reflect and bring that to God as you understand them? I believe not only in this particular uh, uh, book of wisdom, and other contexts as well, can help guide us through this journey that we call our lives. And if we can hang on to a couple and go against maybe popular um, persuasion of not giving 100%, not working for the best of our ability because that's what's being asked of us, but to just get enough done to not be negatively noticed. I think at the end of the day, the person that we have to most be okay with is the one looking back at us in the mirror, and the one that we report to or identify with something greater than ourselves. As you journey this week, after you listen to it, know that when there are setbacks, it may very well be a teacher, that you're not alone, and there are others who have gone on before you. Maybe the situation isn't exactly the same, but we can glean from that on what to do. As always, I appreciate you being here and look forward to being with you next week.